بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وقال تعالى قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم وقال تعالى وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين صدق الله العظيم. As we today stand at the 10th of Rabi Al-Awwal. As we know, Rabi Al-Awwal this month is synonymous to the mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the discussion of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is not limited or confined to any month, but as a historic fact, there is more mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this month, having this month being the month of his birth and the month of his demise. But we must make sure that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his mention and his value and importance is not confined to any month, not restricted to any month or any day in our life. Rather, the value and the importance of the Sunnah and the importance of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should remain with us at all times. And again, that is a sign of Iman, which we'll come to later, inshallah. To get an idea, you see, we can talk about many aspects of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if not every aspect of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we will find many lessons, plenty of lessons and plenty of things we can learn from every occasion in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is why Allah has blessed us with this blessed individual, with this great individual, and his exemplary life. But everybody takes to things in a different manner. To somebody, intellect may be everything. To somebody, accomplishment may be everything. To somebody, leadership may be everything. To some, an exemplary husband may be everything. Everybody clicks in a different way. And we today live in a digital world. We live in a world where information is at your disposal. You've got plenty of information which a human cannot even comprehend. A human fails to understand how much information we have available at our fingertips. Not only that, in small devices, pieces of metal, we are managing to store huge amounts of data and information. In such a modernized society, in such a forward-thinking world, which we may call forward, let us ask ourselves that in this day and age, with all this technology, and where all these information is stored so well, if each one of us sitting here were asked that which day of the week were you born? What time of the day was it? And who was present at the time of your birth? How many of us could answer this question? We may be able to Google it and find out the day. Or some may have some vague idea of what day of the week it was. Time of the day, the mother may know. Who was present at that time? Some may have an idea, some not so. And even in this day of technology, in this modernized world, we fail to have all these details at our disposal. Yet, an individual born 1400 years ago when there was no such digital world, when information was not secured in this manner, born in a desert, born to a backward society, this individual 1400 years ago, yet every detail of this person's life has been kept safe till today and will remain so till the day of Qiyam. Just imagine, 1400 years ago when there was no way of storing this kind of information. Yet the details from 1400 years ago we still have with us today. Every single detail. You see, with this individual, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was born in the month of Rabi Al-Awwal. This is his existence in this worldly life. But his prophethood, it started before any of this could even come into mind. One Sahabi once comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, mata wajabat laka an-nubuwwah. The Prophet of Allah, when did you become a prophet? When were you granted prophethood? He says, Kuntu nabiyyan wa Adamu munjadilun bayna al-ma'i wat-tin. Allah granted me prophethood when even Adam alayhi salam was not in the shape and form. Adam alayhi salam was not, he was still in the shape of clay and water separated. He was not even put into shape yet. Even prior to that, Allah had already made me a Nabi. So the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam started even before the existence of humanity. But yes, he came into this world. You see, on the 8th or 9th of Rabi Al-Awwal, which corresponds to 19th or 20th of April 571. This is the date when the Prophet ﷺ came into this world. They say it was a time of Subh Sadiq, dawn break. Born to parents, Father Abdullah, Mother Amina. Who was present? Who was the person present at his birth? Who was the nurse at the time? Say Shifa bint Amr. And she relates this incident. She says, when I came to Amina, when she gave birth to this child, the nur I saw, I never found in any other birth. I was a midwife. I had seen many, many births, but the nur I saw at this birth, I never found anywhere else. So once this child was delivered, the sun had just risen. He said, I could feel that the sun was peeking over to see this child in the lap of Amina. He said, I could feel that the sun was approaching so close that I was afraid that the sun would fall on our heads. It seemed that the sun was trying to take a peek at this child that was born in the lap of Amina. Who was this? None other than Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So at the time of Subh Sadiq, why? Born in a desert. See, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Father Abdullah, why? His start of his existence in this world came from the home of Abdiyat, servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was nurtured in the womb of Amina with amn and peace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The midwife present was Shifa bint Amr. Why? Because this Muhammad Rasulullah came as a shifa to entire humanity, to free humanity from the disease that it had been suffering from. Who was his nursing mother? Halima. See why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for him to drink from the fountain of Hilm and Akhlaq. That is why we find the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Why born in a desert? See, a desert is known to be a place with no vegetation. Why? Because Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was the vegetation for the world. Many question that we have Ashwara Hurum, the sacred months. Why was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam not born in one of those sacred months? He could have been born in Ramadan. Allah could have chosen for his birth to take place in the month of Ramadan or any other sacred month. Why Rabi Al-Awwal is not one of the four? Say because the existence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam didn't need a sacred month. Rather, the existence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave sanctity to that month. He didn't need the honor of a month. Rather, his honor, he gave honor to the month in which he came into this world. That is the existence, that is the coming into the world of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who lived on the face of this earth, who remained on the face of this earth, they say, for 22,330 days. And as a prophet, he remained for 8,156 days. And eventually again in the month of Rabi Al-Awwal, on a Monday, they say 1st or the 2nd of Rabi Al-Awwal. I know 12th is a famous opinion, but after having looked at many researches, it doesn't seem to coincide correctly with the calendar. It's either the 1st or 2nd of Rabi Al-Awwal, which is the more understandable opinion. 1st or 2nd of Rabi Al-Awwal, 11 AH, which corresponds with the 27th or the 28th of May, 632 is when this individual left this face of this earth. So 1400 years ago, when there was no way of recording such information, this person's existence, every single detail, for his 22,330 days in this world, every detail, even something that we would think is trivial, mundane, no need to be recorded even, that small items, every single incident in the life of Rasulullah ﷺ is recorded. Till today. Till today. This shows تُعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرِ إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah didn't need technology to preserve the information and the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was meant to be preserved. It has been destined by Allah. Allah arranged for its preservation. Allah didn't need technology for it to be preserved. Allah doesn't need means for it to be preserved. If Allah takes responsibility, Allah ensures for its preservation. This is a sign of izzah and honor, which comes from Allah. تُعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرِ. Izzah comes only from Allah. Izzah comes only from Allah. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Izzah lies with Allah. Izzah comes from Allah. Allah gives izzat. Allah gives izzat. This human can never give izzat or dhillat. This is the doings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The seerah, the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is full of incidents that we can learn from. A few I'd like to share today, if time permits. Again, Subh Sadiq, all these details, why at the time of Subh Sadiq was the Prophet ﷺ born? This is Subh Sadiq, is daybreak, when light comes after a period of darkness. The Prophet ﷺ's existence in this world came after 6 centuries of darkness. After humanity had been misguided, the Prophet ﷺ was the sun and the light to guide humanity after such a darkness. That is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aisha radiallahu anha used to say, لَنَا شَمْسٌ وَلِلْآفَاقِ شَمْسٌ وَشَمْسُنَا خَيْرٌ مِّن شَمْسِ السَّمَاءِ. See, there's 2 suns. One is the sun of the heavens that you see, the sun that we refer to as the sun. Another sun is our sun, referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لَنَا شَمْسٌ وَلِلْآفَاقِ شَمْسٌ وَشَمْسُنَا خَيْرٌ مِّن شَمْسِ السَّمَاءِ. And then she says, our sun, the sun Allah has given us as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is far superior than the sun out there that you see in the skies. She says, why? لأن شمس السماء تطلع عند الصبح وتطلع بعد فجر وشمسنا تطلع بعد عشاء. She says, why? See, the sun that you see in the sky, it only comes about after Subh Sadiq, after dawn break. When the light is already out and then the sun comes. Whereas our sun came at a time when there was utter darkness. Our sun is able to shine in utter darkness. When humanity was steeped in darkness. No recognition of Allah. When humanity had steeped to its lowest, that is when our sun rose. It didn't need any light around it to assist it. It wasn't there in the presence of light. It came in the presence of darkness and gave light. This is Aisha radiallahu anha giving an example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The akhlaq, the character, leadership, father, husband, every aspect of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been preserved and is a lesson for me and you. An incident I'd like to share today from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As you know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was first married to Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha. And sometime after this marriage and this union took place, his first daughter Zainab radiallahu anha was born. Prior to prophethood, Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha proposed to the Prophet ﷺ that this daughter of theirs be married to Abu al-As bin Rabi'. The Prophet ﷺ accepted. He says, Khadija, if I don't object, if that's what you're proposing, that is what your opinion is, then I'm happy with it. If you think this is a fit proposal for our daughter, by all means go ahead. Let's make the nikah. Zainab radiallahu anha, the eldest daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in regards to who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had many words to say, wonderful words to say. She gets married to Abu al-As bin Rabi'. Eventually the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam announces prophethood. And many people approach Abu al-As bin Rabi', instructing him, at that time he had not accepted Islam, instructing him to give up the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to cause him pain, to cause him grief, He says, why should you keep this man's daughter in your marriage? Why don't you, get rid of her? He says, no, she is my partner and she has done nothing wrong to me, so I see no reason for me to treat her in an ill manner. I see no reason for her ill treatment. She has been faithful to me, she has been loyal to me, she has been an honest wife. I see no reason for this. I refuse to ill treat her, I refuse to abuse my authority over her. And he kept her in his marriage. Eventually the Prophet ﷺ migrates to Madinatul Munawwara, and the Battle of Badr takes place. The Battle of Badr takes place, and Abu al-As participates in this battle, and he is held as a captive. As you know the incident, the captives of Badr, a ransom is agreed that they will be freed on a ransom. They can pay the ransom and they are allowed to return back to their homes. So the family members of the captives are sending ransom so that their families and them can return back to their homes. For Abu al-As, the Zainab radiallahu anha sends a ransom. What does she send as the ransom? She sends that very necklace which was given to her by her mother Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha. The necklace is brought to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You see, when the Prophet sallallahu ra'aha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw that necklace, رَقَّ لَهَا رِقَّةً شَدِيدَةً. They say he cried. This is the necklace that Khadija gave to my daughter. He wept. رَقَّ لَهَا رِقَّةً شَدِيدَةً. He cried excessively upon seeing that necklace. And then he took mashwara. He consulted the Sahaba sitting there and he said, if you give permission, then I would like to return this necklace to my daughter. This was given to her by her mother. If you give permission, I would like to return this back to my daughter. As for Abu al-As, we will set him free on the condition that he must send my daughter to Madinatul Munawwara. Abu al-As agrees. He's told that take this necklace and give it back to my daughter, return it to my daughter. But as soon as you reach Makkatul Mukarramah, you must make arrangements and send my daughter to Medina. She is a Muslim, you have not accepted Islam. Makkah is not the place for Muslims to remain. The hostility, the situation in Makkah is not suitable for her to remain there. And the Prophet ﷺ sends Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha and another Ansari Sahabi to go towards Makkatul Mukarramah, that, stop somewhere, make arrangements, and he will pass on my daughter to you and bring her with safe passage, take care of her and bring her to Madinatul Munawwara. He agrees to this. The Prophet ﷺ mentions this. He says, حَدَّثَنِي فَصَدَقَنِي وَعَدَنِي فَوَفَانِي. This is the son-in-law of mine, Abu al-As. He may not have accepted Islam, but he's been very loyal to me. The Prophet ﷺ didn't fail to recognize. He didn't hold a grudge just because he came against me in Battle of Badr. Who does he think he is? My son-in-law come in front of me, he is X, Y, and Z. No. The Prophet ﷺ said, he may not have accepted Islam yet. At that time, even the Prophet ﷺ didn't know that Abu al-As would ever accept Islam. Yet he says, حَدَّثَنِي فَصَدَقَنِي وَوَعَدَنِي فَوَفَانِي. That he has been a loyal son-in-law. He has been a faithful son-in-law. Whenever he said something to me, he has shown himself truthful. Whenever he has made promises to me, he has fulfilled his promises to me. I have no reason to hold a grudge against him. Who is this? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As it continues, he reaches Makkatul Mukarramah and he sends Hazrat Zainab radiyallahu anha. He makes arrangements. He's unable to go himself. He sends his brother Kinana bin Rabi, that take my wife to the outskirts of Makkatul Mukarramah. You will find individuals there. Hand her over and they will take her to Medina. As Zainab radiallahu anha leaves, she's mounted on a camel. At that time she is pregnant. As she's leaving, some people of the kuffar of Makkah find out and they say, how can we allow safe passage to the daughter of Muhammad, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That how can she freely leave and we just let her go just like that? So a group of people decided to follow her camel, and a person by the name of Hibar bin Aswad attacked her. They say with a spear, and it pierced through, and she said, and she fell. فَوَقَعَتْ عَلَى صَخْرَةٍ. She fell over onto a boulder, onto a rock, And because of that fall, she miscarried that child on the spot. And she started bleeding profusely. She was unable to continue the journey because of her injuries. They took her back to Makkah al-Mukarramah so she can rest and she can recover from these injuries. She stayed a few days, and after things settled a little, eventually they made arrangements again, and she was eventually sent to Madinah al-Munawwara, where she went and met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Later on down the story, Abu al-As eventually does come to Medina and he does accept Islam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gets the nikah done again and allows them to live together again. Come 8 years after Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Zainab radiyallahu anha passes away with that very wound. The wound she sustained at this incident of Hijrah on her migration, due to this injury and due to this wound, she passes away. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again at this moment, he says, خير بناتي أصيبت فيا, that this is one of my favorite daughters, the eldest child of mine, for my sake she has struggled a great deal. For my sake she has struggled a great deal. He instructs Salama radiallahu anha to give her ghusl. He is weeping at this time. He gives his own cloth to Salama radiallahu anha, that use this cloth of mine to shroud my daughter. Sahaba standing there, say the Prophet ﷺ was struggling to even look at this daughter of his who had passed away and who was returning to Allah. He went into the grave and he laid her down in the grave with his own hands. You see, when the Prophet ﷺ came up from the grave, his face was radiant and bright. The Sahaba inquired, O Prophet of Allah, you were upset. You lowered your own daughter into the grave, you came up and your face was changed. He said, when I went into the grave and I saw the loneliness of the grave, when I went down into the grave and I placed my daughter into the grave, I saw the state of the grave. I saw the difficulty of the grave. I saw the loneliness of the grave, and I thought to Allah, I prayed to my Allah, that, oh Allah, how will my weak and feeble daughter Zainab cope with this grave? Oh Allah, she is unable to cope with these stages to come to her. Oh Allah, she is unable to cope with the loneliness of this grave. She has suffered in this world enough for me, Ya Allah. I prayed to my Allah promised me that she is exempted. Because of that joy, you see my face bright and radiant. After this comes the conquest of Makkah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna fatahna laka fathan mubina, Allah gives victory. Many years later, after many years of hardship, the people of Makkah who never thought this man would ever come, but they knew at the back of their minds, they had the threat, the fear at the back of their minds that something may happen, because of which they tried to persecute Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as much as they could. And because of whom he had to leave his beloved hometown. They say when the Prophet ﷺ was making hijrah, when he was leaving Makkah, when he reached the furthest point from which he could see Makkah, he turned around to Makkah and he cried. And he said, Ya Makkah, you are very much beloved to me. You are my hometown, you are very much beloved to me. Had these people of Makkah, had these people not driven me out, I would never have left you. Had these people not driven me out of here, I would never have left you. He continues on his journey. The Prophet ﷺ, as we know, at the time of Hijrah, took the ocean route. The route was on the seashore because it was not the common route. And when this route that he was taking met with the normal route, so he reaches a junction where the road ahead is leading to Madinah al-Munawwara. He has come from the ocean side, and you've got the inland route which leads to Makkah al-Mukarramah. So if you were to take a U-turn there, you'd end up back in Makkah. He stops at that juncture, he turns around, and he cries again, that this is the path to Makkah. I am leaving all my connection with Makkah. At that time he could see Makkah. At this point, this is the path that leads back to Makkah. He could take that U-turn and go back. Again he weeps and he says, Ya Makkah, you are very much beloved to me. If these people had not driven me out from you, I would never have left you. Had these people not driven me out from here, I would never have left you. But it was destined for Rasulullah ﷺ to leave from this place. The very same people who trusted him, the very same people who called him as-Sadiq al-Amin, were the very same people who chased him out of Makkah, who made his life hell, who persecuted him to the extent that he was unable to survive any longer in Makkah. The very same people who call him Sadiq, the very same people who call him Al-Amin, the very same people who entrusted him with their wealth, with anything else, would give him priority over anybody. Their own blood, they would trust him more than their own blood. شهد الأنام بفضله حتى العداء والفضل ما شهدت به الأعداء. That this is it, that your enemies also bear testimony to your virtue. They would give him preference, they trusted him more than their own blood, yet these very people chased him out of Makkah al-Mukarramah. For what reason? When you knew he is Sadiq, when you knew he is Amin, when you knew you trusted him more than your own blood, when you knew there was no human like him, you still chased him out. Why? Because of your personal grudge. Because you couldn't take what's happening. You couldn't accept what was happening. You couldn't accept the change he was bringing. Although it was goodness, you couldn't accept it. Because of that, you had to be chased out. But Allah had to bring him back. Allah brought him back. Conquest of Makkah takes place. The Prophet ﷺ says, he instructs the people around him that, Hibar bin Aswad, the one who murdered my daughter, get hold of him. He knows that this day I may have to suffer. Before anybody manages to get hold of Hibar comes running to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The very same person who killed his daughter, for which he cried and wept, this person is coming again to that same father. Ya Hibar, what do you want? He says, I've heard a lot about you. فَاصْفَحْ أَمَّا يَبْلُغُكَ عَنِّي. Please forgive me for all that has reached, all the trouble that I have caused you. The pain, I understand the pain I have caused you, but I have heard that you are greatly forgiving. Please forgive me for the pain I have caused you. The Sahaba took out their swords, that this is the very person who had caused so much grief to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet said, lower your swords. Lower your swords. Give him an opportunity. The Prophet ﷺ responds to his request and says, Ya Hibar, you are forgiven. Ya Hibar, go free, you are forgiven. I forgive you for the grief you have caused me. I forgive you for the pain you have caused me. Not only that, Rasulullah ﷺ turned around to the Sahaba and he said, oh, Ya Sahaba, oh my Sahaba, I have forgiven him for the pain he has caused me. I instruct you to forgive him also. Who was this? Muhammadur Rasulullah ﷺ. Who had authority on that day, who had permission on that day. He says, on this day of conquest of Makkah, Fatah Makkah, Allah has made Makkah halal for me. Allah has allowed me. Allah has given me permission I can take life. On this day, Allah has given me permission. Allah has made it halal for me that if a person was hanging by the curtain of the Kaaba, Allah has given me permission to slay that man. This is for none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the authority Allah had given him. He chose not to use that authority. He chose yet to forgive. God-given authority which no human can ever have. Yet what does he do? He exercises forgiveness. He exercises patience. He looks over his grudges. He looks over his grief. He looks over the fact that this person has hurt me, has pained me, has killed my daughter. Again, Wahshi comes. Many such people come to him. He looks over this grief. He doesn't hold grudges. He forgives, he forgets, and he gives for the sake of Allah. This is the exemplary character of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is just one incident. This is just one incident. This 22,330 days of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu are filled with these kind of incidents. May Allah give us tawfiq to study the life of Rasulullah sallallahu. As Allah says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, a perfect example, the only example. But again, this example, Allah announced it being an example. But who is it an example for? We all know about it, let alone me and you, even the people who don't have Iman know the Prophet ﷺ is the best human to ever walk on the face of this earth. But only those manage to adopt his example. لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُ اللَّهِ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُ اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. Those who have a fear of Allah, those who have a hope of Allah, those who have Allah in their hearts, those who know that they are going to stand in front of Allah on one day, those are the people who are able to emulate Rasulullah. Allah mentions, لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُ اللَّهِ. Who is this exemplary character for? Who will emulate this character? Who will emulate this example? Those people who have a khawf of Allah. Those people who have faith in Allah. Those people who have hope in Allah. And those people who believe that they shall stand in front of Allah one day. May Allah make us from these people. May Allah make us from these people. This example is there. If we fail to emulate it, we are at loss and nobody else. May Allah give us tawfiq. Ameen wa akhiru da'wan. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadun Rasulullah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadun Rasulullah. Hayya 'alas shalah. Hayya 'alas shalah. Hayya 'alal falah. Hayya 'alal falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فيا أيها الناس اتقوا الله تعالى واعلموا أن الإنسانية كانت قبل بعثة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في أسوأ الأحوال، فكان الإنسان قد نسي خالقه وفقد قوة التمييز بين الخير والشر والحسن والقبح، وانتهى فساد أخلاق الناس إلى نهايته حتى بعث الله رسولنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى كافة الناس بشيرا ونذيرا. وقد ولد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم الاثنين في شهر ربيع الأول في قبيلة قريش، وهي من أشرف القبائل نسبا وحسبا ومجدا، وهو عليه الصلاة والسلام من أشرف قريش، وكان أحسن قومه خلقا وأشدهم حياء وأصدقهم حديثا وأعظمهم أمانة، حتى اشتهر في قومه بالصادق والأمين. ولما كان 40 عاما من عمره أوحى الله إليه وبعث إلى الناس كافة بشيرا ونذيرا. وقد عاش النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في مكة 13 عاما بعد البعثة، ثم أمره الله تعالى بالهجرة إلى المدينة، فخرج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مع أبي بكر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. وقال تعالى: قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم. وقال تعالى: لقد من الله على المؤمنين إذ بعث فيهم رسولا من أنفسهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم، ونفعنا وإياكم بما فيه من الآيات وذكر الحكيم. إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك بر رؤوف رحيم، فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه، ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة. من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد، ومن يعص الله ورسوله فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك، وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته، وارض اللهم عن الخلفاء الراشدين أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وعن سائر الصحابة أجمعين، وعن التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وعدنا معهم بمنك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر المظلومين المستضعفين في غزة وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر المظلومين المستضعفين في غزة وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم موتاهم، اللهم اشف مرضاهم، اللهم تقبل شهداءهم، اللهم عاف مبتلاهم، اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى من كيد الغاصبين. اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك، اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك، اللهم خذهم أخذ عزيز مقتدر. اللهم منزل الكتاب ومجري السحاب وهازم الأحزاب، اهزمهم وزلزلهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. Complete straight on the rows, make sure heels are on the line, stand shoulder to shoulder, make sure there are no gaps in the rows.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah, asyhadu an la ilaha illallah, asyhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, asyhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'alas shalah, hayya 'alas shalah, hayya 'alal falah, hayya 'alal falah. Qad qamatis shalah, qad qamatis shalah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Please complete the rows. If there are any gaps, please fill in the rows. Please fill in the gaps. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.